Chapter 1: The Boy Who Counted Every Penny. Picture a small town in Oklahoma in the depths of the Great Depression. The year is 1929. Banks are collapsing. Families are losing everything. And in this world of scarcity, a boy named Samuel Walton is learning a lesson that will shape the rest of his life: that a single dollar, earned and stretched, can change everything. Born on March 29, 1918, in Kingfisher, Oklahoma, Sam grew up watching his father struggle through farm foreclosures and broken deals. Money was never abundant. So young Sam went to work. He milked the family cow, bottled the surplus, and sold it. He delivered newspapers. He raised and sold rabbits and pigeons. By the time he reached the University of Missouri, he was paying his own way, waiting tables in exchange for meals, hustling for every dime. He was relentless, restless, always moving. After graduating with a degree in economics in 1940, Sam took a job as a management trainee at J.C. Penney, earning $75 a month. It was here, on the retail floor, that something clicked inside him. He fell in love with selling, with customers, with the rhythm of the store. But World War II interrupted everything, pulling him into military service. When he returned in 1945, Sam was 26 years old, married to Helen, and burning with a single ambition: to own his own store. He had saved $5,000. It wasn't enough, so he borrowed $20,000 more from his father-in-law, and with that money he bought the franchise rights to a Ben Franklin variety store in the tiny town of Newport, Arkansas. He had no idea he was about to make a costly beginner's mistake. But for now, Sam threw himself into the work with a fury that stunned the townspeople. He studied his competitors obsessively, walking into rival stores just to see what they were doing right. He bought merchandise from any supplier who would sell cheaper, then passed the savings to his customers. The strategy worked. In just a few years, Sam transformed a failing store, generating $72,000 a year, into a powerhouse pulling in $250,000, the #1 Ben Franklin franchise in the entire 6-state region. He was on top of the world, and then it all came crashing down. Sam, in his eagerness years earlier, had signed a lease with no renewal clause. His landlord, watching the store's incredible success, decided he wanted it for his own son. There was nothing Sam could do. After 5 years of brutal, beautiful work, he was forced to sell his thriving store and walk away. It was, he would later admit, the lowest moment of his career. But Sam Walton was not a man who stayed down. As he packed up his family and searched the map for a new beginning, he made himself a quiet promise. He would never sign a bad lease again, and next time, he would build something no one could take from him. Chapter 2: Starting Over in a Forgotten Town. Defeated but not broken, Sam Walton went searching for a fresh start. He needed a town small enough that the big players ignored it, yet alive enough to support a store. He found it in Bentonville, Arkansas, a sleepy farming community of fewer than 3,000 people, tucked into the northwest corner of the state. It was the kind of place the rest of the world drove past without a second glance. To most ambitious businessmen, Bentonville looked like nowhere. To Sam, it looked like opportunity. In 1950, he opened Walton's 5 and 10 on the town square. But this time, he did something different. He negotiated a 99-year lease. Never again would a landlord take what he had built. Sam poured himself into the new store with the same obsessive energy as before. He woke before dawn. He flew small planes across the region. He had earned his pilot's license, hopping from town to town, scouting locations, studying customers, hunting for cheaper suppliers. He was famous for walking into competitors' stores with a notepad and a measuring tape, jotting down prices, examining displays, even counting the cars in their parking lots. He was learning, always learning, and he was experimenting with an idea that would eventually change the world. Sam noticed something simple but powerful. When he lowered prices, he sold dramatically more. He realized that if he sold an item for less but sold far more of it, he could actually make more money overall. It was the seed of a revolutionary philosophy: pile it high, sell it cheap, and the volume will follow. Throughout the 1950s, Sam expanded. He opened more variety stores across Arkansas, Missouri, and Kansas, building a small chain of around a dozen shops. He was a successful regional merchant, comfortable, respected, raising 4 children with Helen in a modest home. He could have stopped there. Most men would have. But Sam was watching the horizon, and he sensed a storm coming, a new kind of retail beginning to appear in America. Discount stores. Massive operations selling everything at rock-bottom prices, running on thin margins and enormous volume. Sam traveled the country to see them firsthand, studying these pioneers obsessively. He became convinced that discounting was the future, and that the variety store model he had mastered was about to become obsolete. So Sam took his idea to the leaders of Ben Franklin, the company whose franchises had made him successful. He begged them to embrace discounting, to let him try it. They turned him down flat. They thought the margins were too thin, the risk too high, the whole concept reckless. It was a defining rejection. Sam Walton was now in his early 40s, a comfortable small-town businessman being told to play it safe. But he had seen the future, and he could not unsee it. If no one would back his vision, then he would simply have to risk everything and build it himself. Chapter 3: The Gamble That Built an Empire. On July 2, 1962, in the small town of Rogers, Arkansas, Sam Walton opened the doors of the very first Walmart discount city. He was 44 years old, and he had bet nearly everything he owned on a single dangerous idea: that ordinary people in forgotten small towns deserved big city discount prices, and that no one was serving them. It was a perilous moment to enter the game. That same year, 3 retail giants launched their own discount chains: Kmart, Target, and Woolco, all backed by enormous corporations with deep pockets and national reach. Against them stood Sam Walton, a regional shopkeeper from Arkansas, financing his dream by mortgaging his house and borrowing to the hilt. His own brother and partners worried he was risking ruin, but Sam saw what the giants couldn't. They were chasing the big cities, fighting over crowded markets. Sam went the opposite direction, straight into the rural towns of 10,000 people or fewer, places the giants dismissed as too small to bother with. There, with no real competition, a Walmart could dominate completely. His philosophy was simple and unshakable. As he would later put it, there is only one boss, the customer, and he can fire everybody in the company, from the chairman on down, simply by spending his money somewhere else. Sam obsessed over giving that customer the lowest possible price. He squeezed costs out of every corner of the business. He drove an old pickup truck. He flew coach. He shared budget hotel rooms on buying trips well into his years as a billionaire. Every penny saved was a penny he could pass to the shopper. The early stores were rough, plain, bare bones, merchandise stacked on tables and pipe racks. But the prices were unbeatable, and customers poured in. Sam was everywhere at once, flying his plane from store to store, walking the aisles, greeting employees, scribbling notes. He insisted on calling his workers associates, not employees, treating them as partners in the mission. He believed, deeply, that high expectations are the key to everything. Growth was slow at first, capital was tight, and Sam was funding expansion through a patchwork of loans and partnerships, taking on staggering personal debt. By the late 1960s, he had opened a couple dozen stores, but the financial strain was becoming unbearable. He was leveraged to the edge. One serious downturn, one stretch of bad sales, and the whole fragile structure could collapse, taking his home and his family's security with it. Sam knew he had reached a breaking point. To keep growing, to fulfill the enormous vision burning inside him, he needed real money, big money, the kind of capital that no small-town bank could ever provide. And so Sam Walton, the man who counted every penny, the man who distrusted Wall Street and prized his independence above all, prepared to make the most uncomfortable decision of his life. Chapter 4: Mountains of Debt and a Leap of Faith. By 1970, Sam Walton was trapped by his own ambition. He owned a growing chain of discount stores, but he had financed nearly all of it through debt, borrowing from banks, from partners, from anyone who would lend. The numbers were terrifying. He was personally on the hook for millions, and the more stores he opened, the deeper the hole became. He later admitted that for years he was really borrowed to the hilt, constantly juggling loans, constantly one bad season away from disaster. There was only one way out that could fund the future he imagined. Sam would have to take Walmart public, to sell shares of his company to strangers on the stock market. For a man who treasured control, who built everything with his own hands and his own family, it was a deeply uncomfortable surrender. But the alternative was to stop growing, and Sam Walton could not stop. On October 1st, 1970, Walmart held its initial public offering, selling stock to the public for the first time at $16.50 a share. The money that flowed in changed everything. Almost overnight, Sam paid down the crushing debt that had haunted him for years. The financial chains fell away, and now, with access to real capital, the rocket finally had fuel. What happened next is one of the most staggering wealth stories in American history. That IPO price would go on to split again and again and again over the coming decades. A small early investment in Walmart stock would eventually be worth a fortune, almost beyond imagination. Early shareholders, including many of Sam's own store associates, would become millionaires simply for believing in him. But Sam never lost his obsession with frugality, even as the money rolled in. He still drove his battered pickup truck, the one with dog kennels in the back for his bird hunting trips. He still got his hair cut at the local barbershop. He believed that the moment a company started spending lavishly on itself, it stopped serving the customer. Every dollar wasted on fancy offices was a dollar stolen from the price tag. With fresh capital, Sam expanded at a furious pace, blanketing the rural South and Midwest with stores. He built a hub-and-spoke system, placing a distribution center first, then surrounding it with stores within a day's drive, an efficiency machine no competitor could match. He pioneered the famous Saturday morning meetings, gathering his team at the crack of dawn to review numbers, share ideas, and fire up the troops. He led cheers. He pushed relentlessly. The little Arkansas company the giants had ignored was now multiplying across the map like wildfire. But the bigger Walmart grew, the more attention it drew. The sleeping giants of retail were finally waking up, and they were beginning to realize that the folksy man from Bentonville they had dismissed was coming for everything they had. Chapter 5: The Richest Man in America. Through the 1970s and into the 1980s, Walmart didn't just grow, it exploded. Sam Walton's strategy of dominating small towns the competition had ignored was paying off beyond anyone's wildest dreams. The stores multiplied from dozens to hundreds. In 1980, less than 2 decades after that first store in Rogers, Walmart crossed $1 billion in annual sales, and the company was just getting started. Sam was determined to stay ahead, and he did it by embracing tools his rivals were too slow to adopt. He poured money into a sophisticated computer system to track inventory, knowing exactly what was selling and what wasn't in real time. He invested in a private satellite network, a stunning bet for a discount retailer, linking every store and distribution center together. While competitors guessed, Sam knew. This relentless drive for efficiency meant Walmart could keep prices lower than anyone else and still profit. Then in 1985, the world finally took notice in a way it couldn't ignore. Forbes magazine named Sam Walton the richest man in America. The folksy shopkeeper from Bentonville, the man in the pickup truck, was now worth billions. Reporters descended on Arkansas expecting to find a flamboyant tycoon. Instead, they found a humble man who still ate at the local diner, still drove his old truck, still seemed faintly embarrassed by the attention. He hated the spotlight on his personal wealth, insisting the money was just paper, that what mattered was the company and the customer. There's a famous story that captures the spirit of the man. After challenging his company to hit an ambitious profit target, Sam promised that if they pulled it off, he would dance the hula on Wall Street. They hit the target. And so, true to his word, Sam Walton put on a grass skirt and a Hawaiian shirt and danced the hula in front of cheering crowds in the heart of the financial district. The billionaire chairman making a fool of himself for his associates because a promise was a promise. By now, Walmart was a national force, steamrolling toward becoming the largest retailer in the world. Sam credited his success not to himself, but to his people. He believed in sharing the company's prosperity through profit sharing and stock ownership, turning ordinary cashiers and stockers into shareholders who genuinely cared. "If you love your work," he said, "you'll be out there every day trying to do it the best you possibly can. and pretty soon everybody around will catch the passion from you, like a fever. But even as the empire reached unimaginable heights, time was catching up with its founder. In the late 1980s, Sam was diagnosed with cancer. The man who had built it all, who had outworked and outsmarted the giants of American retail, was now facing the one opponent he could not defeat. And he knew his time to secure his legacy and to share the lessons of a lifetime was running short. Chapter 6: The Last Lesson of Sam Walton. In his final years, even as illness weakened his body, Sam Walton refused to slow down. He kept visiting stores. He kept greeting associates by name. He kept asking customers what they wanted, what they needed, how Walmart could do better. The fire that had burned in that Depression-era boy selling milk and rabbits never went out. On March 17, 1992, just weeks before his death, President George H.W. Bush traveled to Bentonville to award Sam Walton the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor in the United States. Frail but beaming, Sam accepted it not as a personal trophy, but as recognition of everyone who had helped build the company. Less than 3 weeks later, on April 5, 1992, Sam Walton died at the age of 74. He left behind a staggering empire. At his death, Walmart operated roughly 1,700 stores and employed hundreds of thousands of people, with annual sales approaching $44 billion. The tiny variety store in a forgotten Arkansas town had grown into the foundation of what would become the largest company on earth. And the fortune he created would eventually make the Walton family worth well over $100 billion, one of the greatest accumulations of wealth in human history, all built from a man who never stopped driving his old pickup truck. But Sam Walton's true legacy isn't the money, it's the lessons. In his final months, he poured his philosophy into his autobiography, Made in America, wanting to pass on what he had learned. And the lessons are deceptively simple. He believed that opportunity hides where everyone else refuses to look, in the small towns, the overlooked markets, the places the giants dismissed. He believed that the customer is the only true boss, and that serving them relentlessly, honestly, and cheaply was the surest path to success. He believed that the people who work for you are partners, not costs, that if you share the rewards, they will share your passion. And above all, he believed in the unglamorous power of hard work, frugality, and high expectations. High expectations, he said, are the key to everything. Sam Walton was not the smartest man in retail, nor the richest born, nor the most connected. He was simply the most relentless. A man who got knocked down in Newport, started over in Bentonville, was rejected by the company he believed in, drowned in debt, and risked everything again and again on a vision no one else could see. From one tiny store on a small town square, he built an empire that reshaped the world. And his story remains a reminder that the greatest fortunes often begin not with money or genius, but with a single person who simply refuses to quit.